1, brawl!
So, before we begin, I want to make myself clear. This video is meant for people of all skill level. Therefore, I divided this video into multiple chapters. If you look at the timestamp or at the description below, you will find time codes for every section of this guide. So if you already know something that I'm explaining, you can already move on to the next section. Greatsword is a very unique weapon in Brawlhalla, thanks to a mechanic known as the bridge system. Essentially, this means that Greatsword can have different versions of the same attack depending on the order of which you executed these moves. Note that these combinations cannot exceed 3 moves in a row. If we take Down Knight for example and hit it the first time, the attack will do disgraceful sword swipe. But if we hit another move first, say Side Light and then D-Light, the sword will be held upside down and push the opponent forward with little range despite being the same attack. The first move is called an opener, the second is called a bridge, and the third a finisher. The openers and bridges do next to no knockback, meaning that their only purpose is to build damage or to read dodges. The finisher, on the other hand, has pretty strong knockback, perfect for ending opponent's stocks. You can perform a finisher move by doing either a gravity cancel, the same light attack twice in a row, or 3 consecutive light attacks. Just like scythe or guitars, Greatsword is a string weapon, meaning that the goal is to read as many dodges in order to build damage. It also has next to no true combos. In order to read, you will have to learn what is called a bridge cancelling. This will allow you to extend your strings, and it's imperative that you learn that before anything else. In order to perform this technique, you'll have to first hit a grounded move, then chase dodge, and then cancel your chase dodge with any attack. I displayed my inputs to help you visualize it, but keep in mind I usually use keyboard but OBS didn't want to capture my arrow keys which I use to attack. On a side note, this won't work if you try to cancel your chase dodge with the same opener move you did to start the string, except if you reverse it. If you're struggling to learn it, start by doing it slowly and then speed up the inputs as you get the hang of it. Let's start with openers. First, we have End-Light Opener. It hits upward, covering a pretty decent area above you and in front of you. And with Greatsword properties discussed earlier, the move will be used for reading instead of actually starting strings. This move catches up dodges as well as jumps. It is best stringed with Bridge D-Light. Side Light Opener is the most rewarding move to hit, since it leads into every dodge read possible. It has the least amount of recover time in the entire grounded kit, making this move somewhat safe to throw out if you learn how to dash cancel well. Dash cancelling being dashing as soon as possible when failing to hit an attack. More information on that on the neutral section. This move is best stringed with Bridge and Light. And to finish off the openers, we have D-Light. This attack hits very far in front of you with no vertical reach whatsoever. Its range is comparable to both D-Light. It also leads into every dodge read, but the timing would be a bit different than Side Light. It is best stringed with Bridge and Light. When it comes to bridges, they are more straightforward. Side Light Bridge provides the most damage out of any of the finishers, but it suffers from high dodge windows as well as being able to get jump out of. End-Light Bridge is hands down the best bridge to go for, since it prevents opponent from jumping out of your strings. D-Light Bridge deals the least amount of damage out of any of the bridges, but it makes it up for it with its low dodge windows, as well as being unjumpable. Not only that, this bridge pushes the opponent forward, helping you to get an early KO depending on the situation. When it comes to finishers, every move has 5 different variations of it, so I'm just going to mention the ones that are useful. End-Light Finisher is always good to go for, since it is unjumpable in every situation, but because it launches at a diagonal angle, it tends to kill later than other finishers. Side Light Finisher is only good to go for after performing a D-Light Bridge, since it allows you to kill earlier than other bridges, and it's pretty hard to jump out of it too, but if your opponent jumps out of it, just go for End-Light instead. D-Light Finisher is the weakest out of the bunch, but it also provides for some niche purposes. Being able to cover both of the sides, it is best used as a GC wake up. Not only that, if you perform a side light bridge, the D-Light Finisher will perform a sword slam on the ground, which can be a viable option to go for if you end your string on the edge. Greatsword aerial kit is often overlooked. While the ground game is the meat, the aerials are the buns. Not what you're looking for, but still good to have. Let's start with Nair, who is basically a heavier Orban Air. More recover time, but more punch. It's good at catching floaty people, can be string with recovery, and can kill at times, but there's much better moves to do so. Recovery. Despite its heavy nerf, recovery still remains a solid attack. Its big hitbox, combined with the fact that you can steer it as much as you want, makes it a relatively safe move to throw out. If skilled enough, it is possible to keep off the top of the map. Not only that, it also hits grounded, so it can be used as a killing option sometimes. Pro tip: dash jump fast fall recovery can help you start a juggle sequence. But be careful, due to its stupidly long startup animation, you won't be able to use recovery as a wake up tool, and you can get your recovery broken easily. Trust me, my recovery has been more broken than Greece's economy. Side air. Not a fantastic move. It takes a long time to come out, a long time to end, is reactable, and trying to start a ground string from a side air is just a bad idea. Despite that, the move packs quite a punch, as well as a big hitbox, meaning that landing one in an edge guarding scenario pretty much sets you up for an easy kill. Little tip: sometimes it is best to use side air towards a wall because it can string it to a down air or a ground pound. There is a better version of Spear's down air, completely steerable, and a grounded version to start strings. This seemingly simple move happens to be the most versatile of the kit. To do the air version, you must be high enough for the blade to extend to the fullest without touching the ground. This allows you to start a juggle sequence because it strings it to near in recovery, edge guard, protect yourself after missing a move by jump daring after a whiff, and also bait. Its low end lag and completely steerable nature makes the aerial version unpunishable. But what about the grounded version? It doesn't have much usage other than to start a string, which in itself is a very good tool to have, but don't throw it out nilly-willy though, as in missing the move leaves you stuck in a perpetual cycle of regret for the Terra Sensing you're about to take.
Yeah, boy.
If you see yourself stuck in the air with only dare to land, it's better to throw out your weapon down to cover your landing, since the weapon throw hitbox is rather big. Or you can use unarmed. Oh, and by the way, grounded there does only 2 damage for some reason. Greatsword's ground pound is arguably one of the worst in the game, but funny enough, it has 2 versions of itself, and not many people know about it. The first version is executed by hitting your opponent with the red slash. This works like a normal ground pound. It sends your opponent down in diagonal angle, basically making it a spike. But be aware, the startup is half as long as the recovery, and for some reason it doesn't have the most force for something this slow and reactable. The second version, on the other hand, is pretty interesting. You do it by hitting the opponent with your blade before the red slash appears. This will cause the screen to shake for both sides, which can be off-putting, and it will put your opponent in midair within range to hit an end light on lower health and an air recovery on higher. But don't throw it out too much because it's pretty punishable on miss. Pro tip: if you slipped off the map because you didn't have enough floor to continue your string, use a jump ground pound. It will catch them spot dodging or dodging in. The part you have been waiting for: how to read. There are 6 major ways to read on Greatsword, so here's how to read every dodge. You can also read right and left dodge with Endlight Opener, but there are some issues with it. The first is that it forces the Endlight D-Light punish, who deals less damage. The second is that it's subject to specific timing. Hit it late if you want to read out, and hit it early if you want to read in. So it's possible to just fail the read outright because of timing issues. And finally, depending on when you hit your opponent, the move can drop. Not saying that it's not viable, but it's rather inconsistent at times. If you hit the sidelight with the tipper of the sword, the 50-50 becomes more consistent, since the tipper of the sidelight deals next to no knockback. At low level, people tend to struggle to jump out of Greatsword strings, meaning that it is very likely to be able to continue strings after more than one dodge read. I would suggest to go into training mode and try out different strings, and be creative with it too. Go ahead, and massacre your opponent to the point where they will go on YouTube and cry that BNG didn't have Greatsword enough. At high level, chances are that you will rarely do a very long punish, since Greatsword can be jumped out of it for the most part. So if you're looking to secure the most damage, here are the most reliable strings. For any dodges cut with Endlight, go for D-Light Bridge and Endlight Finisher. You can also try to squeeze in Sidelight Finisher because it is pretty hard to jump out of it. For any dodges cut with D-Light, go for Bridge Endlight, Chase Dodge Endlight, Bridge D-Light, and Finisher Endlight. You can also go for Finisher Sidelight. If you read with Sidelight, it is the same punish as D-Light. Note that with the new test feature going on, you can now do the 5-hit punish after reading a dodge down. Greatsword neutral game majorly consists of applying pressure while using your long range hitboxes to engage, but some matchup and playstyle can influence that goal. Here are some tips to counter playstyles you probably face. If your opponent is floaty, take the fight to the air with them. Nair and recovery are both excellent juggle tools. If your opponent is a late dodger, go for unjumpable strings and for the first few hits pretend that it's a training pot. If your opponent has 2 brain cells, he will start dodging as soon as possible. If not, just take the free damage. If your opponent is aggressive, well, first of all, congrats, you found someone that is playing the game. But second of all, you will have to retaliate in the middle of the action. Wake up attacks are best suited for this. Or you can just reset neutral. But be aware, if your opponent is trying to catch your landing because you're trying to reset neutral too hard, it is best to do one of the 2 possibilities mentioned earlier in this guide. Some weapon matchups. Here's my weapon matchup tier list, and because I am far superior than every other being on this planet, I'm objectively right about the placements. I will go down the list explaining why I think this is a favored or non-favored matchup, as well as some tips on how to counter some of these matchups. Bow is by far the worst matchup ever, and everyone that plays Greatsword knows why. D-Light outranges your own D-Light, so approaching from a long distance is difficult. You can't really contest it up close either, because bow Sidelight has a much better frame data advantage, and if you try to approach from the air, good luck, since Nair isn't amazing in anti-air. Sadly, there isn't much counters for bow, so I guess you can always parry his D-Light. Lance is on the same level as bow. His diagonal attack is something Greatsword cannot counter, plus attacking it up close is difficult for the same reason as bow. Lance D-Light and Endlight comes out faster than all of your range attacks, so in order to beat it, you have to space your D-Light correctly, since Lance cannot outrange your own D-Light. Blasters is a surprisingly difficult matchups, but Gun's D-Light active frame is enough to stop you in the middle of your own D-Light, and a quick succession of S-Light and Endlight make it near impossible for Greatsword to approach. The reason that Blaster are 60-40 win rate is because you need to play them well in order to stuff out Greatsword, unlike bow and lance. Sadly, I don't have enough experience against Blaster to know how to deal with them, so I recommend switching to your secondary weapon if it gets too difficult. Sword and Katars are put together because they have the same type of counter, which is once again, frame data. Although they have significantly less range than other weapons mentioned above, so you can now space them more effectively than the others. When it comes to Scythe, I put it here because Greatsword has a mediocre recovery game, and Scythe can really capitalize on it. It has diagonal attacks that Greatsword cannot counter, as well as a good offstage. And once again, it doesn't have a good range, so you can outspace it. I don't really have anything to say for Spear and Orb, they're pretty much on the same level. When it comes to the 45-55 category, I put them all down here for one of the two reasons. Either they're too slow, making it difficult for them to approach Greatsword, or they have an underperforming neutral. In the case of Gonus, it just doesn't have much range, and its frame data is not enough to justify putting it at 55-45. Like mentioned earlier, doing a gravity cancel on Greatsword will force you into a finisher move. So, what do they offer? When it comes to GCN Knight, it is my personal favorite. After pulling that move, your character will do a little jump with a red slash covering all above him. This means that you can use it as a mix-up when juggling your opponent, kind of like this. And you can use it to get back on the wall if your opponent tries to edgeguard you, kind of like this. Be aware though that this move has a ton of recover time. GC Sidelight. This version will take 50 years to come out, but it has good range. It can be used to extend an edgeguard. To wake up, or to poke someone standing too close to the edge. But same thing with End Light, the move has a lot of end lag. Gravity Cancel Down Light, like mentioned earlier in this video, allows you to wake up more effectively than GC Sidelight. You must be cautious though. Like the other two GCs, it takes a long time to start and to end, meaning that trying to wake up against fast weapons is difficult. Greatsword offstage is more difficult than the other weapons, but when done right, it is very deadly. The goal is to abuse Dare as much as possible, and on occasion use side air to catch your opponent from rising from the side. Ground Pound should only be used for reading since it is very predictable. I found that recovering low and using Nair to protect yourself is the most effective way to come back on stage. As of recording this, there is only 3 Greatsword legends in the game. Here's my Greatsword legend tier list. In S, we have my man Jaehyun. Jaehyun has a lot going for him. His stat spread is balanced, meaning that he will always be good no matter the meta. He has Sword, who is the most reliable secondary, having a simple neutral and an easy kill confirm. On top of that, his SIGs are really good. Especially Greatsword and SIG. The thing about this SIG is that the hitbox is so massive that it's able to catch half of the dodges when paired up with an opener, basically granting Jaehyun with a 50-50 kill confirm. In A, we have Meiko. She packs less killing power, but greater utility. Her high speed makes it difficult to approach her, and her SIG kit all serves a purpose. She can gip with N-SIG, wake up with D-SIG, and recover with side SIG. But she suffers from low defense, and in order to have true combos on Katars, she needs dex stance, which makes her kill less efficiently. To add salt to injury, both of her weapons doesn't have a kill confirm. And after the heavy force nerf on her D-SIG, it's not rare to see Meiko players build damage without finding a kill. In B tier, we have Magyar. The thing about Magyar is that this issue boils down to 2 problems: low speed and bad signatures. But he still holds some good perks, mainly his defense being the highest in the game, and his weapon combo who works really well together. And we finally arrived at the end of this guide. I hope it was very helpful for everyone watching this. Since Greatsword is a weapon with a lot of depth, it is hard to pick up. But if you made it this far, I have a little announcement to make. I'm actually starting a YouTube channel. No, it's not a joke. It won't be Brawlhalla exclusive though, but if you guys like edited stuff like this, chances are that you will like it. So why not subscribe? Special thanks to Ludwig for the thumbnail and for helping me to get some of those clips, since it is sometimes pretty time consuming. And another thanks to Dakwali and Cap for also helping me to gather some of those clips. Anyway, I hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching.